Et comment ça va les baguettes? So almost 4 years ago I made a video called How to Speak with a French Accent, taught by a French. I was the French. And almost this morning ago I did something stupid. I returned on this video and cringed. So following this I decided to make an updated version because I believe I can do better. Maybe not better, but just say different, a bit less conceptual. I hope. Anyway, how to speak with a French accent, taught by a French. I hope you'll enjoy. Maybe you just want to have this really beautiful and romantic sounding accent because you want to flirt with someone. Or maybe, as it is almost Halloween, yes, I have my team right, you really want to wear a French typical costume with the beret, the marinière, the baguette and the wine. And if you're going for the latter, a piece of advice, go for the mime marceau. You will not have to speak. But let's say we have no choice, it's the former, you want to flirt with your crush and she's or he's definitely not French, because otherwise it will not work. Well, the first thing to look at is the vowels. While doing a French accent, we infuse the vowels with our French spirit, also known as we have no diphthongs in French language, meaning that the vowels will all be shorter. And I'm pretty sure that I lost you at diphthong, so a diphthong is a gliding vowel, so it's when you have two adjacent vowel sounds within the same syllable. One really famous sentence in English for that is "No highway cowboys," with 5 diphthongs. And if you were to say this sentence with a French accent, it would go "No highway cowboy," which is a bit shorter and conceptual. So the first thing to do a French accent would be to drop all the long A, E, I, O, U sounds. For instance, instead of saying say, you would say c'est. Instead of saying so, you would say so. And there's a second point about the vowels, which are vowel sounds that we don't have in French and that we will straight away replace. For example, the long A that you will find in name would be changed with a shorter E, like in "Hello, my name is Ernest." Or the at the end of a word, like water, brother, father, would be changed by like water, father, brother. And finally, the short I sound pronounced like the French E, like in fish. Instead of saying a fish, we would say a fish with a double E sound. Okay, so the second thing to do while trying to make a proper French accent is to actually pronounce every single letter but the H. For example, a sentence like "Unfortunately, I'm uncomfortable talking to yourself" would go as "Unfortunately, I am uncomfortable talking to yourself." Yeah, I know, it's conceptual. You might have noticed that instead of saying uncomfortable, I said uncomfortable. And this is because you have to realize that we, French, don't master your language, and this can be heard within our accent. We rely on easy English words that we know the pronunciation for sure in order to create the pronunciations of all the more complex words. So we know a table. So uncomfortable becomes uncomfortable. And following this third point, we also rely on the one language that we master. Kinda, not really, I mean, it really depends, but most people don't master it properly. But I mean, we rely on our French pronunciations, which is why a word like psychologist becomes psychologist. We French people are lazy, so if you want to make an accurate French accent while speaking in English, you need to think about how French say it in French, but also if it exists an easy word with those sounds in English that French could rely to. Another point is the contractions. In French, we do not use contractions, or well, we do, but it's more about ruining the French language rather than actual contractions. In English, you have those in your actual language. I'd instead of I would. I'm instead of I am. We do not do those contractions most of the time while doing a French accent. My name is Ernest, I am 28 years old, and I would go to the cinema if I could. Okay, the sixth point to look at is the stress. We do not stress any syllable or letter in French. The French is completely smooth. My favorite English word of all time, emphasis. 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 In French would go emphasis. And in terrible French accent, and like most French people would actually go for that, I believe, emphasize. Okay, for the antepenultimate one, the consonant. The H, the TH, and the R. First thing, because I already made a video just for it, the French R. Well, if you want to do a proper French accent, you have to do the proper French R. And if you don't want to go watch another of my videos, I understand you, ben c'est cadeau. How to do a French R. It's like ha ha. So yes, just put a pencil in your mouth and try to pronounce a word with a R, and automatically it will sound like a French R. Horror. Ha ha. You have it. Hey. Wait a second. Let's go watch a... And I'm not sure the French accent will have the expected effect, but if the person is still here and he's saying yes, then you know that the person is okay with you. Okay, so the TH sound, well, that's pretty easy. You just forget about this sound and replace it with a Z. This is my best friend, and today the weather is really not that great. This is really true. Okay, and now the last consonant, the H. In my previous video, I said drop the H. Well, that is really true, because we don't pronounce H in French. But while doing a French accent in English, we don't just drop the H. Because that would mean we disrespect your language. And that's not true. We really try to put the H. We just don't really know where. So if you want to do a proper French accent, remove the H when you have to say it, and put some randomly. Hello, this is my arm, and I eat a lot with it when I am hungry. Okay, now to the penultimate point. As I told you earlier in this video, we are lazy and we rely on French, meaning that we also rely on French grammar rules in order to make our own English grammar rules. For example, with the possessive pronouns, we link the pronoun with the object after and not the subject before. So it doesn't matter if it's a her, him, it, them. If the object is feminine, then the pronoun will be feminine. For example, no matter what is the subject, if we're talking about his wife, it will not be his wife, it will be her wife, because wife is feminine. So if you want to perfectly master the French accent, you also need to master French grammar. Because, yeah, we like making things complex. And finally, les faux amis. If you want people to believe you're French while speaking in English, you need to be aware about those words. There are two categories of faux amis. The first ones are the words that exist in both languages but don't mean the same thing. For example, a store. For you, a store is basically a place where you go shopping. For us, a store is a blind. Or a blanket, which for you is basically a cover, and for us, a veil dish. Oh, veil, diphthong.
Oh, j'adore la blanquette.
And then the second and last category of faux amis, which are words that sound similar but means completely different things. Like an argument. For you, an argument is basically a fight. For us, it's a fact. To propose and to offer.
That's what I said! I'm being genuine.
To propose for you is when you're asking someone to marry you, basically. And to offer is when you ask someone if they want something. And generally, they will have to pay for this thing. For us, proposer is to ask someone if they want something. And offrir is to give something to someone. As a gift. And then to finish, two of my favorite ones. Actually and eventually. for you actually is in fact and eventually is something that will happen for sure at one point. Éventuellement in French is possibly, so something that is absolutely not sure, and actuellement is right now. And you know what? Actuellement, I'm thinking that actually you will eventually subscribe to this channel and éventuellement share this video with all your friends. See what I did? Putain! And this is the end of How to Speak with a French Accent updated version, still taught by a French because I'm the French. I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to put a thumbs up, share the video, subscribe to my channel.
I love blanket. Yeah.
And no matter what happens, I will see you in my next video. Have an amazing, wonderful day. Don't forget to smile and bye bye!